Hello, friends. We're now entering into a place that's called the Valley of Communities. For over 1,000 years, we Jews have lived in different communities around Europe. And this incredible memorial at Yad Vashem tries to record the names of thousands of communities. I'm going to sit down in a moment. I'm going to tell you an experience of Rabbi Lau after he shared with Rabbi Schechter. Rabbi Lau said to Rabbi Schechter, remember, what does it matter how old I am? I'm older than you. And when Rabbi Schechter asked him how that could be possible, Shrulik, the boy of 6 years old or so, said, I have no tears. I don't laugh. I don't cry. I bet you laugh and cry. Therefore, I must be older because I have no tears. So I'm going to share a little story that Rabbi Lau tells. After he was picked up in his arms by Rabbi Schechter, this is on April 11th, 1945. Within a few weeks, 220 boys were put on a bus to go to a place called Écuy in France. And this is now the end of April of 45. And the boys lived in a sanatorium of sorts. And the person whose job it was who accepted this impossible and unbelievably holy task of helping these boys move step by step, moment by moment back to life. Her name was Mrs. Mintz. And the boys came to love her and trust her because of her love and care for them. There was a day, end of April, maybe beginning of May, in which Mrs. Mintz gathered the boys together. And she said, boys, I would like you to gather on the main lawn at 4 p.m. because the mayor of Écuy and the police chief and the different leaders in the community and some of the people who make this place happen, they fund this place, they're going to gather. So I'd like you to be here at 4 p.m. And immediately one of the boys stands up and says, no, we're not coming. These people, they let our parents be murdered and just it was horrific what they did to our parents, what they allowed to happen to our parents. We'd have no interest in being connected to them. They want to fund public relations. Where were they when it mattered? No, we're not coming. Mrs. Mintz said, well, you know what? There's actually going to be a gift for each of you. And inside the gift, inside the bag, you're going to see your name. And it's going to have toothpaste and toothbrush and something sweet to eat. And the boy stood up again. No, we don't want your gift. We don't want their gifts. Who are we and who are they that we should want to help them? And Mrs. Mintz said to the boy and to all of them, please, for me. She paused. The boys then gathered together. They came back to Mrs. Mintz shortly later and they said, okay, we will show up at 4 p.m. And they did. But what they agreed to was that when any of the people would come to the stage to speak, the boys who were sitting on the ground would look down at the grass. They would not stand up. They would not look up. They would not acknowledge a speaker. They certainly would not clap when any speaker was done. And that's what happened. Several speakers, one after another, after the next. Each of them, all they did, they got up and they said, because Mrs. Mintz said, keep it short, they said, Young boys, we're here for you. We pray that you can begin to build your lives. We hope that you'll trust us, that we want to help you. And they sat down. And then the last speaker came, and Mrs. Mintz announced his name. Mr. Leibovitz. And Mrs. Mintz said, Mr. Leibovitz will speak to you. He was born very nearby in the town of Lodz in Poland. And he had a wife and 3 children. They were sent to Auschwitz, and they were murdered, and he's alone. And boys, I want you to know that Mr. Leibovitz decided when he had no one that he would come back to France and see if his successful textile factory would still be operating. And he returned to the factory, and it is operating, and he's just committed that every dollar he makes, every effort he can is going to go to support orphans. Please, Mr. Leibovitz. And as Mr. Leibovitz came forward, all of a sudden the boys started to raise their heads. After all, he understood them. Mr. Leibovitz stood at the stage. He looked out at the boys. He was not much of an orator. He said 3 words. Kinder, children, dear children. 3 words. And he burst out into tears. He wept and he wept, Mr. Leibovitz. And then the boys began to weep. A minute, 2 minutes, 4 minutes, 5 minutes, the boys wept and wept and wept. They had to wipe the tears from their cheeks. At which point one of the boys stood up and said, I rise and speak on behalf of all of the boys here to thank you. Not to thank you for this gathering, which we did not ask for. Not to thank you for the gift, which we do not want. But to thank you for the gift of tears. Mr. Leibovitz, you should know that for the last years, I have been beaten and starved and had no food, no clothing, no nothing, and I have never once shed a tear. And in the last 2 months, I've wondered, am I a human? Can I find a partner in my life? Can I become an Abba, a dad, if I can feel nothing? If the heart inside of me is more like a stone than a heart of flesh and blood? And so I come to thank you for giving me the greatest gift possible, the gift of tears. For I know now that the one who can cry today might be able to smile tomorrow.